Her name is Jessica Morales, but millions of Americans would remember her simply as Baby Jessica.
Makes me feel lucky that I survived it and happy that I did. That I can come back here 20 years later and say, hey, it couldn't cage me then, why should it cage me now?
Then was October 1987, and it was a 22-foot abandoned well in her aunt's backyard. Left unattended for just a few minutes, then 18-month-old Jessica wandered toward the 8-inch wide exposed hole and fell in. That set off a nationally televised drama that gripped the nation. It's now been just about 2 full days since little Jessica slipped through an 8-inch pipe opening.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you again for joining me. So the aesthetics is dark, mainly because it's like bedtime. And in a tiny, strange way, it also kind of relates to the situation that I'm about to tell you about, or the story that I'm about to tell you about. So, I don't think it's been covered in a long time. I've not really found a lot of stuff on it. However, I came across it when I watched a movie that had been based on it, basically. A true story. And it's called, the movie is called Everybody's Baby, I think it was. The Rescue of Jessica McClure. Now, you might know it, you might not. It is a very old film, talking like, what, 1980s? Yeah. So very, very late. Very early. Yeah. So, this rescue was televised, actually. And it was based around an 18-month little girl. Now, in a sense... Now, one thing about this story is that it does have a very happy ending, so there's something good there. And just for view purposes, or to give you a better idea of what was going on, I will be inserting pictures or videos of what was taken back then, basically, covering the story. So Jessica McClure, or is now known as Jessica McClure Morales, was born on the 26th of March in 1986. She was known by her parents as Baby Jessica, or Juicy. And it was in 1987 she became the centre of American attention, both globally, on television, by her neighbours, in Texas, everywhere. There was full-on fear and anxiety after everybody had learned she'd fallen down a well that was in her mum's garden. Now, when you picture a well, picture one like from Annabelle, or, yeah, a typical well where you'd throw a coin in, make a wish. But this was a well that looked, to me, from the movie anyway, looked to me more like a pipe that you would put under the ground for sewage purposes, I don't know. But yeah, it was a pipe that was like maybe that long or wide, but circle. So after she found the well, the next 56 hours were crucial to the people that were involved in the planning of how to rescue her and get her out of the well. Neighbours, family, friends, the media, you know, like I said, people who didn't even know the family well, apart from what was on TV, ended up rallying together, or gathering together basically, whether it be in prayer or in spirit, basically watching over to know if this little girl was going to be rescued or not, and if she was going to survive.
Here's a shot, as you can see, at the top of that shaft, as everyone peering intently down that hole that they dug parallel to the 8-inch water well shaft.
All 3 major television networks have interrupted their programming in order to carry this.
It started out as a simple story. It's ended up being quite a dramatic one. And Pete, here it is! Yeah!
It involved fire brigades, it involved ambulances, police, oilers, engineers, miners, coalers, you know, people from all kinds of, even oil diggers, people from all kinds of backgrounds in that time, who had to rally together to try so many plans to try to get Jessica out of the well. So I'll try and picture it here for you. The well was estimated at 8 inches or 20 centimetres but Jessica had fallen 22 feet, 7 meters below the ground. At one point, which it shows in the movie, her mother states that during the time that she initially realised Jessica had gone missing into the well, and then between the police arriving, Jessica had actually fallen a bit further down into the well.
Answer me, Jessica. The game's over now. Come out now.
How in the hell?
She's not too far down there. I just went in the house for a minute when the phone rang.
I can't see her. What's her name?
Jessica. Her name's Jessica.
Jessica? Jessica? Honey, can you hear me?
She sounds farther away than before.
So basically you're wondering how it might have happened. So it was just a normal day. Her mum ran a small daycare and she was in the garden, which was cut off quite well from what we can see from the movie. It was cut off, it was quite safe enough, you know, gates around the area, so the kids were fine. Her mum was walking about, looking after everybody, checking upon them, and the window was facing, there was a window facing the garden, and her mum simply went in to, I think it was answer a phone call. Everything seemed fine, you know, a typical person would probably do the same thing. There was actually no fault here, before anyone thinks there is. After the phone call, she went outside to the garden and noticed Jessica was missing. After obviously having a bit of a panic, she looked around and then suddenly she noticed that some of the children were looking towards the well and there was a voice coming from the well. At first she didn't believe it, and then she looked into the well, or tried to look into the well with it being dark, she can't see anything, and she heard Jessica's murmurs from the bottom of it and realised Jessica had fallen down the well. Now this well had not been properly covered up, it was covered by a stone rock kind of thing. Again, not her fault, I don't know what the situation was there, it wasn't quite clear, but the well was, yeah, kind of accessible basically. Now as I said, what followed was so many plans and ideas to try to either dismantle the well or get into it or somehow dig under the ground next to it to try and get to Jessica, but because they didn't know what position Jessica was in or how far down she exactly was, there was so many ifs and buts about the whole thing, and the whole idea was to make sure Jessica got out as safely as possible. Obviously they didn't know what injuries she might have had as well. Initially the firemen and the police created a small plan to drill a small tunnel down next to the well and then make a shaft, which would be a tunnel crossing over, in the hopes that they could try to drag her out. This would mean they would need the help of local oil drillers as well to drill the ground. Unfortunately, this plan was halted because they discovered the well was actually made of rock, which made things harder or dangerous. One of their concerns among many was that if they drilled too much, they might end up drilling into Jessica. Some rescuers had jackhammers, which were also unsuccessful. This was mainly because they had been made to drill, or they were made to be used as downwards tools, not horizontal. Now obviously in a situation, because there were so many more fails and less success happening, everyone started losing hope. People were becoming doubtful that they would ever rescue her or she would even come out alive. But one thing that you can see in the movie, and I've watched it quite a few times, and every time it makes me cry, because you can just, I mean obviously credit to the way they made the movie, but the emotion that you can feel from the movie itself is just overwhelming, and especially as a parent. You know, I think my kids have had tourniquets on their toes where they had to be put to sleep to have the to medically open, and even then, even though it was just a toe, I was like panicking because it's my children, obviously, and you just like, you don't know what to do. And the more issues you come across, especially in this situation, it's like you don't want to give up hope, but you're like, oh my god, you know, what can I do? You can't hug your child, you can't touch them because you just can't get to them, But like I said in the movie, even though they came across a lot of issues, they still did not lose hope, and they still didn't stop planning different ways to, you know, there's plan A, plan B, plan C. They really cracked on to try and find a way out. They were not giving up. And that is a community spirit you can see on this movie. Thankfully, whilst this occurrence was happening, Jessica's mum would check on her daughter every now and then, trying the best she could to make sure she was still alert and able to hear. She would even call down to her in the well, or she would sing Winnie the Pooh to her, and hopefully she would reply singing Winnie the Pooh, which she did. Which again, I can show you the video for that.
But I think we're gonna need some more help.
I think you're right.
A lot of people in these parts drill oil wells for a living.
At least they used to before it didn't pay to drill them. We need a miracle is what we need.
Damn it. We're gonna get her out. Purple White.
Excuse me. What's your name? Charles Bowler. This is my boy Ribble.
Honey.
I'm all through.
The baby here, you name.
Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. Jessica? Jessica? Honey? He's Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, willy-nilly silly old bear. Winnie the Pooh.
They even placed a microphone inside the well so they could hear her better because she was so far down. However, it has been known or pointed out that because she was so far down and no one could physically see her, they were still unaware of what, if any, injuries she had and how severe they were. So as well as getting her out, it's like, is she, you know, is anything dislocated? Is anything broken? You know, because obviously getting her out, that's a part of the safety situation. There was a point where, you know, they were discussing that the parents should have to prepare for the worst, if anything, because she hadn't eaten or drunken anything in so many hours, 56 hours in total. And for a child to have that lack of nutrients, it's just, and then obviously the injuries, it wasn't the best scenario. At one point, and again you can see this in the movie, an engineer did come to the call it rescue site and did propose a plan to use this new tool he had to try to drill into the ground.
Run it. We don't need it.
We're doing just fine. We'll be ready to pull her out of there before they can get that gear in.
I have to agree. I'm not sure about that rig. The high pressure hits a crack, the crack's going the wrong way, that beam of water could race up that crack, slice that little girl.
It ain't either. It don't work that way. Look, all I can say is it'll save time, and we gotta save that poor little girl. Look, I'm gonna tell you, the equipment is there. You lose that little girl, I'm gonna stir up more crap than you or this whole city can cover up.
There's no way. I don't think we're gonna get her out alive.
I'm still not sure.
You gotta give it a shot, for that poor little girl's sake. We use it.
It was a water jet cutter, which I can show you the picture of. He said that this managed to cut evenly through rock, but unfortunately for whatever reason, at first the workers did not decide to use this. I think because maybe it was lack of uncertainty of this tool, they didn't know about the health and safety of it, and no one's used it before, it was brand new, so there's like, at first they were like, do we really want to risk it for this little child? You know, in that situation you still have to balance out, is it worth it, is it not? You know, we need to be careful as we can. But saying that, eventually after so many failed attempts, you know, of people trying to go down into this drilled area they'd done into the ground, trying to grab her from the other side of the shaft, you know, they declared the shaft was too small, there's not enough space to move, and they were running out of ideas. So eventually, after, like I say, so many people trying in and out, I think 3 or 4 people were in and out of the second well trying to bring Jessica out. They then decided to use this water jet cutter. So I'll show you the water jet cutter. Basically, it's a tool that you can cut a wide variety of materials using extremely high pressure of jet water and a mixture of abrasive substances. 45 hours after Jessica had fallen, the shaft from the well, a tunnel that they had made to go adjacent to the well, was finally done. It was at this time that the workers decided to hatch a plan to work out how to send someone down, how to give all the first aid kit, like a backboard in case she was injured, you know, bandages to support her head to come up, because you're dealing with a very limited space, and they still had to support Jessica just to make sure she was still okay. Initially, a man called Ron, who was a roofing contractor, had initially offered himself to go down into the shaft. Something interesting about Ron is that he had been born without a collarbone, so he was able to collapse his shoulders enough to get into tight spaces. But then again, because he was a roofing contractor, and maybe, I don't know, or again it's severe circumstances and they didn't want anyone else getting hurt, they said maybe it's better that you don't go. So even though he'd offered himself, he didn't actually go in. Now again, many more people would go in and out of this tunnel that was made, but because there's so much dust and the dirt and everything, it was just too much, and you know, there's so many people offering, but it just wasn't getting the job done. Ultimately, the firefighter Robert O'Donnell, which I'll try and picture here for you, did manage to go into the shaft eventually with his friend, which I'm not sure what his friend was called, I can't remember, it's not really written, but he was basically accompanied by a friend into the shaft, and it was him who would manage to squirrel his way into the shaft to try and get Jessica. He noted that due to her fall, Jessica had been pinned inside the well with one leg above her forehead. He would tickle her leg just to make sure she was, you know, responding to him. Luckily she was. Initially he didn't want to pull her to risk any more further damage, but as it had been that long and people realised that he'd finally got close enough to pull her, the on-hand doctor, paediatric, she just, even in the movie, she just said, pull. It was now or never situation, and she just shouted down, pull. I think in her mind, like any other person probably would have done, they were thinking, you're this close now, just pull her and we'll deal with the damage later. At that point, I think I would have said the same.
Oh, thank God. She's still alive. Whew. It's back in now. Calm down, Jessica. Calm down. They're yelling at me up there. Come on, Robert. Pull her. Just pull her.
Well, tell him I just moved her an inch. Maybe that'll shut him up.
When she comes up, I want some security in case this mob surges in. You understand?
You got it. All right, boys, 2 lines right there to the ambulance. Come on. Now let this baby breathe here. Now, nobody gets through. Nobody gets through. Line up.
Steve? Steve? Tell him to pull. Steve? Pull! Pull! Pull, Robert! You can do it!
She was one of the people who gave advice to the rescue workers who helped pull baby Jessica out of the well.
Her leg was wedged, and they couldn't extract her. And I told them that if they had to, they could break her leg to get her out. And so I was there in the ambulance, and then I was the pediatrician in charge of her care for the month that she was in the hospital.
Now that well was pretty small, so Reese brought some props to make sure people could see just how small that well was.
I brought plates of different sizes to kind of show how small the well opening was, for people to kind of get a better idea of what, and to raise the question of how did she get in there.
Thankfully, with the braveness of Robert O'Donnell, he did pull Jessica free, and she was handed to another firefighter who was accompanying him in the tunnel. From there, they managed to lift them up from the hole onto the ground level where another firefighter was waiting, grabbed Jessica, and they ran straight to the ambulance where she was received later in the hospital. Even in the movie, you get very emotional looking at it, because as soon as Jessica comes out of the hole, everybody's just full of praise, they're clapping, they're smiling, they're cheering, and her parents are in the ambulance waiting. And I think as a parent, when you hear that cheer, you're like, oh my god, thank god, something good has happened, she's back. How they're just, it's like a parade of people, they're just driving with the ambulance and everyone's just praising, there's fireworks, and obviously I'm not sure if there was fireworks on the day, but yeah, and she was received at the hospital and everyone was just so happy to see her. Now, they did say that because she'd sustained so many injuries, and obviously if you're going to have surgery, you're supposed to be on an empty stomach, they did state that they had to avoid giving her any food or drink, but I do believe they also said that they put her in an IV drip. If you don't know about IV drips, it basically tries to give you the nutrients that your body's been starving of for a while, for whatever reason. The American news station CNN had full coverage on this story, and the then President Ronald Reagan gave a statement saying that she was everybody in America became godmothers and godfathers of Jessica while this whole incident was going on. A year later, in 1988, the McClures and the McClure's grandparents gave an interview on Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, shared the full experience. A photograph taken of the rescue by Scott Shaw from the Odessa American received the 1988 Pulitzer Prize for spot news photography. Now, because of the incident and the way that, for 56 hours Jessica's leg had been pinned up against her head, they initially thought she would have to have her leg amputated. And this was mainly due to the fact that there was loss of blood flow in her leg. So instead they tried to use hyperbaric therapy, which if you don't know what that is, I'll try and put it here below. Thankfully they only had to amputate her toe because it had already developed gangrene. If you don't know what gangrene is, I'll put it here as well. This was mainly due to lack of circulation in her foot. She still bears a scar on her forehead from where she was pinned up against the well. Strangely enough though, despite the accident and the 17 surgeries that followed after it to get her back to her normal self, she states that she has no first-hand memory of the situation of the accident. However, one sad thing about her situation is that, I don't know, maybe if it was due to pressure of the media or if it was just too much for them what had happened, but her parents did sadly divorce in 1990. Another sad thing, and this is no judgment at all on him, paramedic who was also one of the rescuers of Jessica, Robert O'Donnell, which is the one who went into the shaft, passed away in 1995. Developed PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome, from after the rescue, and this led to him taking his own life. Now, it's a bit sad because he was such a hero, but I'm guessing just the whole thing made him so nervous, and it's hard for people, especially in them days. Mental health was really not a thing, especially for a man. So, I don't know, I feel bad for his family, my heart goes out to his family, but obviously he just couldn't cope and he just felt like there was no other way out. It happens, sadly. Going back to a bit of positive, Jessica did graduate from Greenwood High School, and in 2006 she married her husband, Daniel Morales, in Texas. They had met in a daycare centre where his sister worked, and they have 2 children, a boy and a girl. In 2011, when she turned 25, she was awarded a trust fund that had been set up for her, which was by people who had been aware of her story, people from the media, who had put together donations for her. She used this money towards a children's college, to buy a new home, and some she admitted she lost in the stock market crash in 2008. And one good thing about the whole story is that she remains healthy and happy and with her children. Now I'm going to put in the ending of the movie, just to give you a brief idea of the situation that happened that day when she was finally freed.
The pictures are snapping, the crowd is cheering, they're trying to quiet it down as they bring the little girl up. There she is, there she is. She's got a lot of mud and debris on her.
As the cable slipping, that steel cable slipping ever so slowly but gradually past the gloved thumb of one of the rescue workers, the indication that something is being brought up. There it is, the cable still moving. We can only infer at this point that what is being raised is the rescue worker together with that little stretcher holding 18-month-old Jessica McClure. Mike?
Ted, they have been using that line that's going down into the hole constantly through this. Men have been working in 20 to 45-minute shifts, and when they were drilling initially, it could only be one man at a time with a jackhammer, and they would just stay down there till they couldn't take it anymore. And when they would come up, some would collapse, they couldn't stand. But one man after another, some of them without a great deal of experience, others with an awful lot of experience, helped. I'm beginning to hear a cheer or two now. Let's listen. Ted, they sound deliriously happy here. I don't know whether it came across there, but it's just absolutely electric. People have the biggest grins I've ever seen. What we can't see, at least I can't from my vantage point, is how she is. How does she look?
Well, Mike, as I said to our audience before, sometimes you're in this curious situation where someone who's 50 feet from the action can't see as much as people who are 1,000 miles away. Let's just let the pictures speak for themselves. The camera has a wonderful close-up of Jessica. She looks obviously kind of uncomfortable because her arm is literally strapped with bandages to her face, but she is also clearly alive and apparently well.
Ted, she just walked within about 3 feet of me. It does look like one badly bruised girl. Let's just hope she can make it. She had some very rough scars, some very rough bruises, but I guess that's what you'd expect from being in the bottom of a 20-foot well for 2.5 days.
Well, Mike, we are seeing some obviously very relieved and very gratified rescue workers, friends, neighbors, policemen, health workers. The important thing is that little girl is out of the well. She is in the ambulance. I assume that ambulance has already left, that the parents are with them. This is one of those very rare times when we are able to focus on a story that has captivated the nation and say there has indeed been a happy ending.
It really was the agony and the ecstasy. For 2.5 days, rescue workers struggled to drill first a shaft parallel to the well, and then with agonizing slowness tried to cut through solid rock to the well that held the 18-month-old child. We never saw that. We never saw what it was like in that tunnel, but we know from the men who worked in it that it was hell.
I got KY jelly up in there, and it was just a slow, steady pull, and while she was in this real sticky crud they had, I just had to keep pulling regular, just constant. Once I got to the KY gel, we started making faster progress, 2 inches real quick. Then, in fact, I had to slow up some right at the end to get everything underneath, to get the backboard underneath and ready to put her on it, and she slid right out.
After 58 hours without food or water, with one leg bent up against her skull, Jessica was alive.
Currently, we're starting IV fluids to help rehydrate her, as she is I would say quite dehydrated, probably between 10 and 15% dehydration.
Oh, thank God. She's still alive. Whew. It's back in now. Calm down, Jessica. Calm down.
They're yelling at me up there. Come on, Robert. Pull her. Just pull her.
Well, tell him I just moved her an inch. Maybe that'll shut him up.
When she comes up, I want some security in case this mob surges in. You understand?
You got it. All right, boys, 2 lines right there to the ambulance. Come on. Now let this baby breathe. Here. Now, nobody gets through. Nobody gets through. Line up.
Steve? Steve? Tell him to pull. Steve? Pull! Pull! Pull, Robert! You can do it!
Come on, sweetheart. She's coming. Here she's coming. Here she comes. Oh, come on, honey. Come on, Jessica. Come on, Jessica. It's okay, baby. It's okay. I got you, honey. I got you. Come on. Come on. Come on. That's it. You're out, you see. You're out, Jessica. Come here. I'm sorry. Send in the spine board, Steve. Okay. That's it. That's it, sweetheart. That's it.
There it is. Here we go.
Calm down.
Here we go.
Calm down. Okay, baby. Hi. Hi, sweetheart.
Okay, come on.
Okay. Here we go.
I got you.
Here we go.
It's okay. It's okay.
Here you go. Okay, sweetie. All right.
So again, it's a very crazy story. I think this puts a fear in any person, any parent you know, because you want your kids to be independent and free and, you know, explore the world, but at the same time you don't want them to hurt themselves or get lost or go missing. So it's kind of a hard balance. I know with my 3, I'm still anxious, even now that they're getting older and wanting to be independent. I'm still wanting to be like observing them from around the corner from afar. Not because I don't trust them, I'm so full of anxiety in this world. But yeah, saying that, I hope you did enjoy this video and this little story. Again, it is a true story. You should watch the full movie if possible, because it is very tense. You're going through the motions as it is. Yeah, you will cry a lot. I remember like when I was trying to cover the documentation for this video, and watching the video still made me cry. It's just intense. But yeah, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want more videos like this that are nice stories, true stories with success stories, yeah, let me know in the comments below. Let me know in the comments below if you've heard of this story, heard of her case. But yeah, until next time, as always, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, God bless.
Answer me, Jessica.
Emergency rescue unit. 18-month-old child has fallen down a water well.
Rescue efforts are intensifying at this hour.
We need a miracle is what we need.
It took a little faith, a little courage, and a little girl to bring a nation together. Miracles do happen. Bo Bridges, Patty Duke, based on a true story. Everybody's Baby, the rescue of Jessica McClure 1 week from tonight.